Hello everyone, my name is Triton Perrin, and I'm here today to talk to you about this new plugin by Black Rooster Audio. Now, I made a video about the LA2A plugin that Black Rooster Audio has. One of the reasons why I made it was, first off, I was impressed by the company, and they're brand new and they don't really have many people who know about them. But the second reason I made it is because they announced that they were going to do a free amp sim. So that was what prompted me to download some of their other plugins to try them out. And so this is the free amp sim called the Cypress TT-15. If you can't tell by looking at it, it seems to be based on the Tiny Terror by Orange Amplifications. And it's pretty cool. Before I get into playing it, I finally figured out how to record everything live without having to have too much latency. So this is a little bit of a test as well. So I actually have a bit of experience with the Tiny Terror amplifier because it's in the guitar shop in my town, and I've used it a lot. Now, I'm not an expert with it, but I really liked it. So I have some experience in how it's supposed to sound, but I also grabbed the demo for the Amplitube 4 Tiny Terror so that we could compare them just fairly quickly side by side, so we can sort of see if it's in the same ballpark as one of the nicer paid plugins. When the amplifier opens, you have just this on the screen. What is amazing, in my opinion, about this is that it comes with a cabinet or an impulse response loaded in. So here on the screen we have it says cabinet here. You can turn that off and on. So you can run it through a different cabinet, which I have opened here, which I will get to later, but the built-in one actually sounds very decent. And this is actually a great amp for getting clean tones, and I even threw it on bass one time and it sounded pretty good. So now let's just listen to it. So hopefully this works well. So not really like a specific riff or anything, just sort of showing you how the chords sound. On the basic setting, there's a little bit of distortion. It's nice and crunchy, and it actually sounds pretty good. So what's sort of nice about this amplifier is that the gain, tone, and volume knobs all react very similarly to the real amp. So if you want to get more distortion, you can actually turn up the volume and not just the gain. But of course, that will turn up the actual volume of the track. So this might end up being a little bit loud, so we'll see. So as you can see, that seems to add a little bit of distortion as well as a little bit of different tone. Let's turn it back down and see what it sounds like again. Just the volume knob by itself adds a little bit of crunch and some sort of mid-range that really sort of makes this a very sort of versatile amplifier. And you can just back down the volume again to help get clean tones, I think. It's gotten a bit quiet, so we bring this up. You can get, like, it cleans things up a little bit, but of course, you do have to adjust the gain to get the actual clean tone. And if you turn up the volume too much, even in the clean tone, it gets a little crunchy. Well, just like the Tiny Terror, you have to sort of compensate with the volume knob on your guitar. So if I turn that down a little bit, it'll clean everything up. Now it feels like it has a bit more gain than the one that I was using, and comparing it to the Amplitube 4 one, it does seem to have a bit more gain, but just backing it off, it's fine. So we just put this back in the middle, control click. There we go. So the other thing, the tone knob is very versatile. It can get pretty bright, and it doesn't actually get very dark to me from what I can hear on my speakers, but it has a bit of variety. So let me play some chords and just mess with the tone knob. So you can get a little bit more saturation from the tone knob as well, which is exactly what happened with the actual Tiny Terror, which is really cool. I think they've done a really good job. Something else that's cool, so you can turn it into a high output. This changes things a little bit, but not too much. So we put this back to the middle, control click, I forget. And we can just flip it back and forth. It doesn't seem to really affect the tone as much as everything else, but it's pretty cool altogether. See, and so you've probably noticed by now that I have this Tubescreamer plugin over here. Of course, I play a lot of metal, and so one of the things that I really liked about the actual Tiny Terror is that you can actually get a pretty decent metal tone from it. So just pushing the gain here will actually get you pretty close into getting a decent metal tone. But the problem here is that there's a little bit too much distortion, and it needs to be a little bit tighter in the low end, and so that's what you use a Tubescreamer for. So if we back this off to just when it starts to get to the metal distortion sound, I need to test it here. So yeah, right about there, it's good. Now if we bring in the Tubescreamer and set it up just like how we normally would, overdrive down, this will already sort of get you a pretty decent metal tone. So it actually makes this a pretty versatile amplifier, but I would say it's more on the rock and roll side. I mean, it's an orange amp, but it's more on the rock and roll side. But you can get some pretty good sparkly cleans out of it. So in order to get it a bit more towards the tone that you want it to be, the best way is, of course, to turn off the cabinet and then bring in something else here. So I have an orange cab impulse that was free, made by the same person who's a Critical Cab or Messiah pack. Got it a long time ago, but it sounds pretty good. So now if we listen to it with this new cabinet, It's definitely a bit more, like, for my case, geared towards metal now. And it's yeah, it really works that way. So we know that we can do certain things. We know that we can get a metal tone. We can sort of clean it up a bit. Let's look how it compares to Amplitube, because Amplitube also has a tiny terror. So let's just turn on Amplitube and remember that the default settings with the Cypress, it was already a bit crunchy. It was already a bit there. And so for the Amplitube, we are just using the same setup. No stomp boxes. We bypass the cabinet, and there's nothing in the rack. Just the amp by itself. And I've set everything to 5. That's the default value there, 5. And 7 watts. Okay, so something I thought was interesting is that it's actually pretty clean at the default settings. So this amp is, this version of the Tiny Terror is much more clean. And when you turn up the gain and the volume all the way up, I'll turn down the master a bit. If you turn that all the way up, you can start to get to the metal like before, but you can get to this similar sort of sound, but it requires everything to be sort of all the way up, whereas on the Cypress you actually had to back down a bit. So it's sort of interesting, but this also seems to be a bit darker. So let's compare them side by side here in a second. Let's back this off to about here with the gain up and the tone in the middle, and bring in the green screamer again. Just the same settings as over here. And let's try to get this let's just see how this one sounds real quick. It seems much darker than the Cypress, but it's good to compare. So I'm just going to do similar settings on the Cypress here. The gain, it's about right here, tone in the middle, volume all the way up, and the cabinet's off using this. So let's turn this one off and turn this on. And we do have the green, and we don't have the green, now we have the green screamer on, so there we go. Then if we go back to the orange, we can just open it up just for visuals. The harmonics and stuff, like when you do a pinch harmonic, they aren't as full because there's not as much gain on this one. But actually, the basic character of both of them is very similar, and I actually really like this free Cypress TT-15. It responds similarly to the Amplitube one, but it has this one has just more gain. So we kind of have to back off a little bit, since we have the volume up. We kind of have to back off a little bit more on the gain to get that rock and roll tone. So you probably could get very similar tones if you tried to match them. But I think it's very cool that there's a free orange amp sim now, because as far as I know, there is not one. So this one would be the first. And I'm very impressed with Black Rooster Audio. They're doing a fantastic job. And if they make more amp sims that aren't free, I'm definitely going to consider buying them, because this is pretty damn good. And the cabinet that it comes with, while it's not perfect for metal, it does still work. Yeah, a bit too much mid-range, so the cabinet that it comes with would actually work really well for clean tones. So you can just pull this up without having to pull anything else up and get really good clean tones. So as you can tell, I'm very impressed. Aren't really that many free amp sims that I get impressed by. The only other one that I really, really like is Emissary by Ignite Amps. And the Ignite Amps is coming out with something new soonish as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, if you haven't heard of Black Rooster Audio, if you haven't seen my other video about them, you should definitely check out their stuff. They're brand new. So if you have any questions or feedback, or if you like the video and you want to say anything, just leave a comment down below. Anyway, thank you for checking out the video. And I think that's about it. So have a good day. See ya.